Hello Astro friends, it's Melanie here with the vlog for the Astro weather of May 30th until June the 5th. This time earlier in the day, you see me at daylight. Everything is bright and warm out here on the Pacific Northwest coast, which of course most people love, me too. And hopefully not a bad sign for a trend that is not so great for Mother Earth and all her beings, including the humans. And I'm also earlier in the week recording this on the Sunday, so you have it a bit earlier. Yes, we are in Gemini season since the 21st of May. That was seems like already ages ago, last Sunday, exactly a week ago, until summer solstice, of course, the 21st of June. And we're in the early part of Gemini, moving over to the central part of Gemini, the central 10 degrees and 10 days. So that starts on the 30th and goes until the 10th of May. And central Gemini has an Aquarius undertone. Where do I take this from? It's my decanate system that attributes differently from the standard system, the undertones of zodiac signs to different parts of the zodiac seasons, right? So I have, instead of the early Gemini is not Gemini undertone as most of the decanate literature or like theories would say. It's not a Gemini, it's not the undertone necessarily of the same sign, it's the undertone of the cardinal sign in that element. So early Gemini has a Libra undertone. Mid-Gemini has an Aquarius undertone, so that's the central part is a fixed energy where the season, or in this case just the Gemini season, concentrates, and that has an undertone of Aquarius. And end of Gemini has a Gemini undertone. Then we have a smooth transition to early Cancer, having also a Cancer undertone, which is again the cardinal water sign. So more about the decanates, maybe in a class. I might want to teach that again because it's really a great access point for astrology and another way of seeing one's chart, right? New understanding of certain positions of planets in the zodiac, in your zodiac signs. Anyway, so we are now transitioning from this Gemini Libra piece to the Gemini Aquarius part in the next few days. What does that even tell us? So Gemini with Libra undertone, there's a lot of things to coordinate and alchemize, and there's polarities and differences that we want to learn about. Often we only learn via contrast. This was actually the Sabian symbol for the last new moon on the cusp to Gemini, learning by contrast. And that's how it often happens. We only understand ourselves and relationships like Libra, right, better when we see the different components, how they even are very contrasting. Can we alchemize? Like, for example, an example I had recently in terms of meeting a friend, and her pace is very different than mine, right? So I realized actually how fast my pace is in relation to her super slow pace. She needs to take in and take time, stop, listen, watch, which I also do when I'm by myself, but typically not so much when I'm with somebody, right? So now you learn about your own pace, for example, and then about also compatibility, adaptability, or not so much, right? That's just a little example. And then we go into, and also about balance, right? So is this balanced when one person has a need to move on while the other person is holding back? pulling the energy back, well, because she is not done with this experience. She needs to linger, right? And there's more and more. Well, I'm already off, right? So anyway, so you're learning about balance of energies. Is this a balance, or is it like, oh, my energy gets drained when everything is so slow, right? Oh, well, then you have the effect it's actually not super balanced, right? But that is all an effect of differences, right? And polarities in a way, right? Polarities of pace. This is just a cute example I just had. And now we're going into the Aquarius part of Gemini. So Aquarius, yes, also has to do with friendships, with group consciousness, with systems, with components working together. And of course, with Gemini, they also need to communicate well with another. And we will have more in that regard coming up, because not only will we have the full moon in mid-Gemini, mid-Sagittarius, mid-Gemini, right? So moon will be in mid-Sagittarius, sun in mid-Gemini. And we'll have also the day after the new moon, Mercury, planet of Gemini, currently in Taurus, but conjunct Uranus. That happens typically just once a year. And Uranus is again also the planet of Aquarius. So there's quite an Aquarius undertone of this full moon. And I show you the picture. Look at that, right? So it's actually lots of squares going on. And you have the sun in Gemini, the moon in Aquarius. Will be actually really beautiful here on the west coast, because as you see, the horizontal line represents the horizon. The sun at 8:42 p.m. Pacific on June the 3rd will be just about to set, yes, on the western horizon at 8:42 p.m. Pacific Daylight Savings Time. And sun will be setting, the moon will be rising. So we'll have a beautiful full moon rise at the exact time of the full moon, 8:42 p.m. And here is Mercury with Uranus, right? So they are coming together. Mercury is approaching Uranus. Day after the full moon will be the Mercury-Uranus conjunction. Then I'm just collecting all kinds of factors here, and then I go into an explanation and interpretation. So we also have, as you see, lots of red lines, lots of pressure, lots of tension, and you have this mutable T-square of moon, sun, and Saturn. And then you have another cardinal / fixed T-square of Venus, Pluto, and Jupiter North Node, right? So it's in fixed signs. Venus enters Leo also just after the full moon on the 5th of June, and then we'll go immediately into opposition with Pluto and T-square with Jupiter and the North Node. So lots of tension here, and a mutable one that we're already experiencing the whole week. It started today with the sun going into square with Saturn, the Gemini sun into square with Saturn in Pisces. And then when the moon goes into Sagittarius, which will be in on Friday, but on Saturday the moon will be also in square then with Saturn. So the mutable square is kind of a nervous energy. There's a lot of pressure that wants to release, that wants to move, that wants to go, and then yet there's kind of a holding pattern. So, and here in this case, it's also about the outlet to Saturn, because Saturn is on the apex of that T-square, right? And so we need to understand, right? We need to learn about Gemini and understand Sagittarius more about Saturn in Pisces. It's the first T-square, strong T-square with Saturn, and Saturn enter Pisces on the 7th of March. And so now Saturn in Pisces gives us also teachings, lessons, often like hands-on, full-on personal experience, definitely not a theory, right? So it's a felt and sensed experience slash lesson teaching around vibrations with Pisces. What are the vibrations? How can we up level our vibrations? And if vibrations aren't good, things are not going well, right? Saturn shows us also cause and effect. And so, what's with the energy field? What's with what we're picking up with Pisces, especially if you have Pisces in your chart or a strong 12th house, and you're probably quite sensitive to energy and what you're picking up from your environment and from people close by, animals, right? Animals have actually a really good way of dealing with energy. You see that sometimes with dogs, they just shake off the energy. And Pisces can also invite us to move the energy, for example, via dance, via movement, one way or another, via swimming, going into the ocean, watery, release one way or another is very Piscean. And and Gemini would say, oh, I need to talk about this. Sagittarius would say, oh, let's take the high road, or let's just understand really what's going on rather than going into back and forth conversation. And Pisces says, I need to either embrace what's here, since I need to, really be in adaptation in a positive, in an enlightened way, in an environment where I'm just living. I need to adapt and flow while not absorbing what's, for example, toxic and not really beneficial and not healthy. The Virgo side, that's not represented in the mutable energy field here, that would add it up to a Grand Cross. Virgo is very concerned with health, wellness, alignment, practical concerns. Is this healthy for me to be swimming in this soup, for example, right? Or do I need to just let go and clean and clear my energy field? So lots of that mutable energy swirling around and building up for the full moon this next weekend. What a full moon on Friday evening, on Saturday evening, the 3rd. Then what else is up this week? In the meantime, Mercury Uranus, right? So Mercury, ruler of Gemini, will be a conjunct Uranus on June the 4th, day after the full moon. And that can be also add to quite some nervous, erratic energy and disruptions of your peace of mind. And maybe wake up calls regarding the earth, nature, what's going on, what's humanity doing to nature, what's especially the industry, the greedy industry, Taurus doing to nature, and what needs to be an innovation or a whole breakthrough and paradigm shift of thinking, right? So that's in a way an anticipation, a preview for the one of the major events in 2024, when Jupiter, now in Taurus, will meet Uranus, and that will be next April 2024. I believe April 21st. So that can bring even more appreciation for what we have and to live now, or and also wake up calls and breakthroughs, maybe technological breakthroughs, but also maybe some disruptive shifts to the economy could literally relate to money and economy, which is also Taurus. And everything is building up as Jupiter now in Taurus is approaching this Uranus. Not quite getting there this week, not getting there this year, as I said, because Jupiter will also go retrograde. When is that the case? Jupiter retro from June on, I believe. Okay, I don't have it here. No, it's sorry, it's early September, mid-Gemini, in mid-Taurus. Jupiter will be close to Uranus, sort of getting to mid-Taurus, but then backing off, right? So not quite reaching Uranus this year. But what's acutely relevant here this week is Jupiter conjunct the North Node. That actually already happened last week, but is still in effect till the end of May. As you see, how can you determine that if you don't have a calendar that tells you all the alignments? You can even just see in the chart that I always post in my blog and also in the email Astro News. So the chart, this one, you can see where Jupiter is and where the North Node is. I have to look in the forward motion. Jupiter is at 404 Taurus right now, or at the full moon, and the North Node is at 202. That's funny. And so this is basically the time when Jupiter is passing the North Node and opposing the South Node. So more about, in a way, also a wrap of the North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio phase, which we've had since end of December 2021, and that goes on until mid-July, July 13th this year. So another disincentive, so being disincentivized by the South Node in Scorpio to be really pulled into either somebody's manipulation, right? That's the shadow of early Scorpio. Manipulation, where the strategy turns into something toxic or just a self-serving, right? So strategic energy happens here with Libra Scorpio, and we want to heed the shadow of early Scorpio. And also, so being basically pulled into dark vortex or making bad choices, right? So we want to watch for that, and what can help us with that, and where is much more energy gravitating anyway, is the early Taurus energy. That is the settling point. I call the Libra Scorpio cusp the tipping point, and here the settling point. So settling into nature, into peace, into joy, right? And also feeling good in our skin, in our body, and being in a place of of enjoyment, right? So, and then from that place of joy, we can also see the dark, the shadow, the Scorpio side in a new light, right? Where if we feel, for example, good in our own skin, we can see how people through their own trauma and very damaging experiences in life have turned to strategies like manipulation and so on, right? And we don't have to fall for it. And so this Jupiter piece, and then that will become also super relevant with the fixed T-square that's building. As I said, Venus will be huge next week. So right after the full moon, Venus goes from Cancer to Leo, and as she on the 5th of June, and as she does this on the same day, 5th of June, she will be immediately in opposition with Pluto, barely in Aquarius, retrograde, and Pluto will go back into Capricorn anyway on June the 11th. I talk about that next time. So Venus opposite Pluto, which also rules Scorpio. Venus rules Taurus, so we have a similar theme here as this Taurus-Scorpio thing, right? That's just explained. And then Venus will be, both are basically, and Venus even more so, in square / T-square with, again, Jupiter in early Taurus. So now Venus in Leo, I'll start with that because that's the shift, right? That's the new part. Venus goes into Leo and will be in Leo for a long time this year until October 8th. Oh my gosh, right? So June the 5th till October 8th. That's more than 4 months. And why is that so? Because she will go retrograde. Retrograde every 1.5 years for Venus, not very often. And this time, all in Leo, right? That's why we have such a long Venus in Leo phase. And it will be from July 22nd until September the 3rd. So, yes, Venus retrograde in the making, showing us that self love, so love comes from within and starts with a healthy heart, a healthy self love. And from that place, we can be so radiant and so creative and so loving, right? So, love yourself and show your love is a theme for Venus in Leo, including the retrograde phase where we have to recover our self love and maybe through reviewing relationship patterns that come from a lack of self love or from an engagement with narcissists or from being a narcissist, right? So, all these shadowy and not so well aligned Leo expressions. More about that next time, and of course, also next vlog time, and of course, also in a special article for Venus in Leo with her retrograde phase into the underworld, as it's called. And so I'm just about to write that, and stay tuned for that. Then that T-square, so that opposition with Pluto, that already is in a way also an anticipation of an underworld situation here, right? Venus goes retrograde end of July till early September, and that itself is kind of an underworldly experience. It's an inward, backward. It's a retreating from external, sort of unconscious relational engagement, and also valuing, so noticing what we don't really value, right? So coming back to what we truly value, how we value ourselves, and then attracting from there. That's pretty much the Venus retrograde sum up. But as she goes into opposition with Pluto next week, that's in a way already a premonition, anticipation of this shadowy side, right? So self-love, Venus in Leo, creativity point from Cancer to Leo, opposite Pluto on the cusp of Capricorn Aquarius, where the energy is very cool and detached, where they're in the midwinter, versus the Cancer Leo is like, and especially Leo, midsummer, super hot, right? So when we cool off in certain social dynamics, we also can notice on a personal level, right, what kind of shadow is coming up. Are we tuning into the shadow of the situation, into our own shadow? What needs to be processed, right? What needs to be processed around this love, attraction, or cooling off dynamic? And don't shut down is the idea also with Pluto, but process, right? Don't just deny and ignore the issue, because it'll come back, says Pluto. And the T-square with Jupiter in Taurus is again more Venus friendly. Taurus is ruled by Venus, and it's like, okay, there's so much love and abundance is here. Nature is abundance. Nature shows us how abundant life is. Can we tune into that? Can we go into an energy of gratitude and abundance, right? And that can really be a change, a transformational agent for this situation and for ourselves, for the healthy self-love. I believe that's it. So one more piece is also going on this week, which is Mars now in Leo, right? Will be lots of Leo energy coming, and Mars in Leo now will go into quincunx, 5 signs apart, with Saturn in Pisces. So we have sort of an odd combination of energies here, right? So Mars in Leo, very hot, very passionate, very loud and expressive, and quite the warrior energy that leads from either a very brave heart or also from a strong, confident, courageous place. And Saturn in Pisces says, well, but there's all kinds of subtleties, right? Subtleties at energy fields that don't necessarily work for this Martian expression, right? Either it's in a dynamic with people where one person is kind of like overbearing, right? The other person is like evasive because like, oh, you're overwhelming me or something, right? I'm very sensitive to all of this. I'm my energy field is sort of collapsing and draining, right? And how to manage the energy when there is this intense kind of leonine entitlement also, right? And also there can be a very passionate warrior, a passionate strength of Mars and Leo, actually fighting for those who can't stand up for themselves, right? That's also Saturn in Pisces, like everybody who is under the radar, not under radar, but too weak in a way, right? So a sense of weakness and not feeling privileged, right? Leo is a privileged energy, and Pisces can be an energy of feeling lost and feeling forgotten, right? And so Saturn, the Mars energy can also stand up for that, the advocate for those who don't have a voice. And yeah, so that's it for this week. So lastly, still like the moon, right? So the moon is now in Virgo, and there's a lot to be done and be productive, and maybe also some issues, problems, fault finding. Take it easy on that, especially as the moon goes into opposition with Neptune anyway tonight, and that will be 2:46 a.m. overnight. So don't get totally basically, yeah, wound up and caught up in worries and concerns and lost in all of this confusion of disorganization, and things are messy and yeah, chaotic, right? So rather rest, relax, and have a good sleep, or do some good release work, right? Or some spiritual practice like meditation, yoga, anything that helps you be in flow again, in a better vibe. Then the moon will be in Libra uh, all day, Monday, Tuesday, until Wednesday, late afternoon. So Libra and Gemini in general, right? Gemini Sun, Libra Moon are in good terms with each other. So there is a wonderful opportunity to be uh, in communication, in exchange with people that are really where there's a compatibility and a synergy effect, and um, yeah, great yeah, synergy is what I'm looking for the word. Then the moon goes into, and it's also great for arts, culture, all of this, and then or also to talk about relationships, right? Libra and Gemini. And then the moon goes into Scorpio over that tipping point, right, on Wednesday afternoon. And immediately in Wednesday is kind of a critical day, right? Because there's Wednesday afternoon, because moon goes into Scorpio, goes where it's most challenged, is with the south node, squares Pluto, opposes Jupiter. So that's another fixed T-square of the week via the moon. And so again, lots of emotional processing. How do we feel about all this energy that's been swirling more like in the head and in the mental sphere of ideas and all that with air energy, and now dipping dipping into the water element, into the feeling, especially certain things that don't make us feel so good. So how do we process that? Who are our friends to process that? And what has got to do with the system and with the changes and all the power stuff in the system these days, these years, right? And how can we find also solace in and guidance and new growth through our connection with nature? Then yeah, so the moonwise goes then over the Phoenix point out of Scorpio into Sag, rises in Sag again on Friday the 2nd, 10 p.m. Pacific Daylight Savings Time, building up for the full moon on Saturday. So that's a more uplifting energy, yet the moon will be also, as I said, going into square with Saturn. So that's on Saturday. So that's a Sag and Pisces energy. What's the issue here? Mostly being pulled into so many directions and wanting everything at once and being overwhelmed in a way, right? Just basically, oh my gosh, it's spring. I gotta go to all these things and do it. So don't get scattered and sort of in a centrifugal energy swirling out into all these directions. You also want to center yourself and be, yeah, at home in yourself, as Venus is still in the end of Cancer in trine with Neptune, her higher octave in Pisces, where Neptune is at home. And that Venus Neptune dynamic is also on Friday. Venus trine Neptune. And the moon from Scorpio also trines Neptune, so they create a grand water trine. Beautiful. Friday can be actually a really beautiful day to be in flow and also allow the deeper, darker sides to come up and be met with care and gentleness and allowing things to move on and move through and move on and move up. Sagittarius. Then, yeah, moon in Sagittarius over the weekend. Wow, what a weekend. Full moon in Sagittarius weekend. Then on the 5th, next Monday, the moon will go into Capricorn, more grounded energy, doing things that help you, also taking care of business. I'll go to the dentist on that day, aligning things with the energies of the moon. The teeth are literally ruled by Capricorn. So I was looking for that appointment on that day. And so what's ruled by Capricorn, for example, in the body? Teeth, bones, skin, anything that is protective and is also solid, and you want it to last, right? You want it to be sustainable. And it has also, you notice as you're aging, which is a Capricorn thing, you notice how good care you've been taken of it or not. And yeah, and like each sign in the zodiac has also associations in the body. Oh my gosh, could do all these videos about all this. Maybe I will do more of this because I'm getting the hang of it. So thanks for all your positive feedback. Any feedback is welcome. And I'm glad I've been committing to this now for, I believe, more than a year. It was more random before. And it's good to do something regularly and get practice at it as well. It's growing, and just get it started. You don't have to be perfect when you start it. So I encourage you to do that too. And wish you well for this week, for the full moon build-up week. And I will put some info about blog and email contact and stuff like that down here in the show notes, as it's called, right? And so let your friends know about this channel if it speaks to you and they may benefit from it as well. And of course, everybody is welcome to come to a private session, because that's what I do professionally for almost 23 years, 22 years, professional astrologer, offering sessions in person here in Victoria, British Columbia, or online. And yeah, happy to see you and support you in this regard. And wish you well for this week. Wonderful week, end of May to early June. Everything is in bloom, and I hope so are you. Bye.